Hi, everybody. So I want to introduce Tavel and Dotan, and I've talked to them before, but we did it on a different channel because we're highlighting small business. So they have a small business, and this is one of their sweatshirts. So you can see that they've embroidered on it, they've patched on it, and it's 100% cotton and infused with light. And they have a very cool name. So the name of this brand is a really cool name, and we're going to talk about all of that today and bring up the ETs. But I want you to tell me what the name of your brand is.
Well,
The name of the brand is Galactic Federation of Light. And essentially, oh, did you want to?
No, keep going. I want to hear all about it.
Essentially, my dad started his spiritual journey about 20 years ago. And through the evolution of time and, COVID especially was when he started getting into a lot of information about what the Galactic Federation of Light was, the messages that we were receiving for humanity at the time, and which way humanity was going, and this massive shift that we all felt in the collective. So he was really inspired by the name and the messages of unity and consciousness and togetherness and light. So that was the name of the brand. That was the name that we chose to represent what we want to do with the clothing, which is bridge light workers together, share the light, share the love, and promote unity and knowledge and light and love with the messages of the clothing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we forgot to kind of mention is that when Tavel is talking about the father, I am the father. So that's me. So we have a family business here. It's basically both my daughters, Shani and Tavel, and I. We started that together, and it was just a way of expression. I came from the world of fashion, to have a fashion brand. I have a facility that dyes textile. I'm in fashion, and the beauty of what's happening in the world now, that people are using their skills and their passion to introduce new ways, new ventures, new collaborations, and each one is using their gifts. And our gift is that we do know how to make clothes, make cool clothes, and we love what we're doing. And we just said how we can bring to the world the message of shining your light. And shining your light doesn't mean like a spiritual bypass, like, oh, I'm just a light worker. It means, let's go down, let's do the work, dig down deep, make peace with yourself, look at the things you need to look at your shadows, right? And then it will be easier for you to shine your light and raise your vibration. And that's our way. That's our way as mankind eventually. And we can feel it all around. We can feel how everything is just shifting. So this is why we created a Galactic Federation of Light, just to come to people and say, hey, let's raise our vibration together.
And just to add to that,
when we have, one second, I'm just finishing up that thing that we have on each shoulder, on every right shoulder or sleeve, we're going to have the stripe of light that resembles Ascension, that stands for Ascension. So by wearing it, by seeing it, by remembering it, we're going to do the work on daily basis. And that's what we're doing, right? Tavel, sorry.
No. I just wanted to say that people feel now that fashion is empty and it's meaningless and it's fast fashion or brands, and it's about consciousness, about what am I putting on my body every day? What do I want to share with the world? What message do I want to share? What frequency do I want to wear. And, you know, having my dad being in fashion for so long, I think he wanted to contribute to the movement in a way that he knew how, which is through clothing. And that's our contribution and bringing people together.
I love it. And it's 100% cotton, so it has a great vibration. And I think we've talked about that before on this show
Right.
about the different vibrations of fabric. So it is important for your body, actually.
Super important. And we don't even understand how important it is only when we look at you know, researchers that were done, and we start learning about, oh, cotton, you know, the resonance, the frequency of cotton is about 190 to 100. 50 actually for regular cotton, organic cotton, at 100. And then we're looking at the fabrics that are like polyester and nylon that resonate on a very low frequency.
0.
0 to 5.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, our body is about 100 megahertz, and cotton at least works together with our body. Some artificial fabrics are actually bringing our resonance down, our frequency down. So when we wear polyester a lot and nylon, it interferes with the dynamic of our body, our frequency, our aura. And when you start being in tune with yourself more and more, you feel that you cannot wear that as much.
Yeah.
So we do most of all of our clothing is either 100% cotton, or we have like a very limited amount of recycled poly on only a certain styles because we need it. And on, you know, the next phase for us will be to make fabrics that are very high frequency, that actually bring your frequency up, like linen and wool. Wool is a high frequency fabric, resonate at 5,000. Same with linen. So those are things that we're going to be introducing later on as we evolve as a company, as we grow and evolve as a company, and we get more following, we get more people to wear and wear our stuff, and basically we will build the brand to help a person just raise his frequency just by what he's wearing and the intention behind what he's wearing, because there's an intention, how things are done, how they're sold, what's the meaning behind them. All that carries a frequency. What do my clothes represent? What do they say to the world? It all carries a certain kind of frequency. So we introduce into the world that kind of like high frequency garments. Plus, Tevel, you want to tell them about Arcturus Ra, what he built for us?
Plus, we are working with an engineer who is in contact with the Arcturians and built us a machine, a photonic charger that embeds our clothing with photonic energy, meaning that it increases the overall frequency of it and embeds it with actual light particles, which is super amazing. So when you do wear it, you can almost feel this tingly sensation if you're aware of, you know, the work that has gone behind it. We charge each garment for about 24 hours before we send them out. And yeah, it's been really cool to integrate that into our process of gifting people, you know, the gift of clothing and our hearts. So just a little bit of our hearts.
Right.
It's so much fun. So I just want to give a little tidbit because I was reminded of it. A long time ago when I was tapping into hidden history all the time, people were asking, like, what are we going to wear in the future? And I was saying, we're all going to be wearing linen pajamas. And everybody was like, there were a lot of people not very happy with that idea, especially fashion people. So I'm really glad that you guys did something a little more exciting than that. So,
And you know
yeah.
what? We can make garments that are not going to look like a linen pajamas.
Mhm.
And that's what the future will hold. Yeah, we're going to have high frequency fabrics that really keeps our body, keeps our frequency. And how amazing is that when you think about it? Because right now,
Yeah.
so many things are happening and people starting to feel the energy of what's happening outside, their energy. So it's like, there's a process here. There's a process of first understanding who we are
Mhm.
and how our body works, how our frequency works. And it's all something that we all learn together as mankind right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And what you named your company after is also something that's very prevalent in the collective consciousness, especially with conspiracy people. And so we're going to talk about what the Galactic Federation of Light is actually doing, what they want, what they want to do for us, all that kind of stuff today. And Tavel and Dotan came up with some questions. So I want to share something really quickly just to kind of explain a few things just to get us started. And the computer will let me do it. Here we go. Okay. So when I was first talking to my higher self about the universe, and this came in as a download, and it was when I finished what was called the death of ego. So I finally got a lot of stuff out of the way and I was able to receive it. But I got that basically the densities are like layers of liquid crystal. So in the universe, if you can imagine this crystal, there would be layer after layer of crystals. And within them, I could see cities, I could see forests, and each layer got it felt lighter and easier to be there. So we've been in the most dense layer. So the most thick. So think of it as like being at the bottom of the ocean. So that's where we have been as humanity. And they're layers of vibration, actually. But the layers of density, if you can think about the darker the layer, the more dense it is, the heavier it is. We've basically been in the bottom layer. And what we're doing is we're moving up and up in frequency. So the ETs have been, the fourth density ETs have been more nefarious because they're more chaotic, they've been more polarized, and they haven't been very nice to humanity because it's almost like a bully, and a bully that you can't see. So they knew that we couldn't see them, but they could see us. So they were not the best, and they're in the process of completely disappearing.
Would that be the draconians and reptilians that you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. And the tall grays, and just the ones that were really messing with humanity. And everything is frequency and vibration. So just to remember that. And if you're confused about why you can't see an ET, then think about maybe watching the movie Lucy. just kind of an intense movie, but she describes why.
Hmm.
And then also think about the blades of the fan, the ceiling fan. The faster they go, the harder they are to see. So I think that's really just what I wanted to explain about that. But we're going to talk to my higher self, and we're going to talk to the ETs today and see
Woo!
what's going on.
I think that's really cool that you cited Lucy as a source with Scarlett Johansson, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
That's a really cool movie.
I haven't
Very
seen it for years.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of disclosure in there. So if you watch it when she's with the professor, she describes why we can't see the ETs. But that's shifting right now. And there's a lot of information about that out in the world going on. And then just people are seeing things now that they weren't seeing before.
And it's funny that so much information is embedded in our like pop culture and just hints here and there. It's really cool. I have a question for you. Um, what does the GFL need from us, humanity, to help the evolution of consciousness?
So, what they're asking from us is to start to let go and work on our programs. So, basically, they're asking us to raise our own vibration and whatever you can do to do that. Today, I posted something where if you hum, so if you're humming, you can't think. So, if your mind is looping around and around, start humming, and that will raise your vibration. If you can ground your body, that will raise your vibration. Just anything you can do to do that, and notice your triggers so that you can work on whatever it is that you're triggered by. And that will help because they're really all about frequency.
So above from like the physical things that we can do, like grounding or humming, it's about doing like the shadow work and like going in and sort of releasing those triggers.
Yep. Yeah. And I have programs for that. A lot of people do at this point, but it's really not very hard anymore because we've evolved quite a bit. So it's a lot easier to release the shadow now than it was a year ago.
Are you saying that to do it by yourself or to seek help?
With my programs, you can do it by yourself with guidance. You can get help. I have people on my website that you can get help from if you need to see someone. But honestly, you can also just ask your angels to take that shadow home. So if you're feeling like something's bothering you, you're stubbing your toe, you're running into the wall, you're feeling sick to your stomach, just ask. If there's a shadow, I want it to be taken home.
Okay.
And it's very easy actually to do it at this point.
And do you think of shadows sort of like entities or more of like trauma from childhood or life or?
So they're going to be like, if you think of a diamond, so this is a crystal, but a diamond will have so many facets on it. And a diamond is what the oversoul, like that's kind of what I would call an oversoul. So let's say there's 100 facets on a diamond. Each facet is a soul or a part of that oversoul that can come down and have an experience. A lot of those facets choose trauma.
Mm.
So you want to send all the facets of you home to the oversoul to be healed so that you can become more whole, but also they need to be forgiven because maybe they were creating trauma or they were receiving trauma. But either way, that's how the universe used to work. And it's not going to anymore. So it's time for everybody to heal souls and human consciousness so that we can all ascend.
So in the beginning, we kind of like talked, Tevel was mentioning the reptilians, draconians, you said tall grays, that they were working, you were saying, to abuse humanity.
Mhm.
And but then again, they are creatures that are living probably in a higher dimension than we are. Doesn't my question is, I'm sorry, isn't when you raise your frequency and you move through the dimensions, don't you become all good?
Yeah, so some of them, they're polarized too. So some of them were okay and some of them were not, but the majority of them were not doing nice things. Okay. So fourth density, if you have third density, so let's think of the pencil as third density, really super thick, the bottom of the ocean. And then the ETs, the fourth density ETs are maybe like the lip balm. Okay. So the lip balm, so humanity fell. So that's the first thing you want to know. Humanity used to be fifth density.
When?
So before Atlantis times, they were fifth density. So they were created in the fifth density. So humanity was like a beautiful being like the Pleiadians. So think about the Pleiadians and how they are kind, they are healthy, they are, coming from love most of the time. There's been a few polarized Pleiadians, but not very many. So they basically agreed to fall so that they could come into this really intense learning space. And not only did they come in, they allowed others to come in to their human bodies and experience it with them. So that's like a soul that's a big old soul would come in to learn something. But humanity's been kind of stuck for a while. So as humanity's been here, the bodies have been messed with, DNA has been disconnected. A lot of different things have happened to humanity. And now we're in the process of moving back up to fifth density. Fourth density was the bridge that was created in between. And that's where a lot of ETs were born.
And stuck there?
And they stayed. Yeah, a lot of them stayed in fourth density. And now fourth density and third density they're going to go away. So as we ascend, the further into ascension we get, the more they're going to go away and eventually they will just blink out. Because they will no longer be needed, because polarity will no longer be needed. So
Because lesson is learned.
the lessons are learned. Yep.
Will that be in our lifetime, do you think?
Yes.
Woo!
Oh, that's so exciting.
That's exciting.
Even now, not to get into politics, but you could just sense the polarity with the elections, and we're still very much not maybe the spiritual community, but like the 3D community is very into polarization. Like, are you red party or are you blue party? Like, are you I don't even know. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that is that's the separation. So if you ever looked at Dolores Cannon, there's a separation of the two earths. And that's really showing us. And the people that are going kind of totally crazy, they basically don't have a big soul to guide them through this process. So they've got their human consciousness, but that human consciousness is so programmed that they're not really probably going to choose to go through ascension in their body.
So how can we help and support people around us in that journey? People that all of a sudden staying away from us, even because we speak certain kinds of truths or things that they don't understand and that don't relate to. And we can feel how people are like locking up, walking away sometimes.
Yeah.
And it makes us sad on a certain level because, you know, we kind of like losing a lot of friends and family along the way.
Mm-hmm. So you will see a higher version of them as we go through this process, or they may choose just to not continue. And the thing is that their consciousness will always continue. They are eternal, but it's just whether they want to do this in their body or not. Because if you think of your body as a human, like organic computer, and you realize that there's a hard drive that's programmed, and if that programming can't be changed, and a lot of the third and the fourth density programming can't be released, then it's too painful to be in a higher vibration. So it actually causes them stress to know the things that you know, to hear the things that you are saying to them. And some people also don't want to know the yucky part. So they're here, and a lot of them are like Tavel's age, you know, so they're here and they're here just to know the good stuff. And they're going to bypass all the gross stuff and they're going to go right into creating the new world. So they're not going to have any of the baggage that we have had. So there's all kinds of different ascension processes going on.
That's so interesting because the way I see it, or at least did before, is like we as a collective are going to rise up or ascend, right, to like another dimension, to another frequency, to another density. And maybe those people that are resistant will somehow get themselves, somehow have their spiritual awakening, somehow be open to this information. But if it's collective and then there are people that are resistant, what happens when the new world comes? Like, what happens to them? Does their body literally like you know, like,
Well, think about it. So if you have a parallel, and so you have your oversoul, and your oversoul has all these facets. And let's say that you heal one of those facets. So I had one where I was like a baron or something, and it was in the old days. So when you had like a dungeon and all this stuff. So I was this chunky old man who was mad at the person who sings. I think they're called the bard. So the person who sings in your household, if you're wealthy, because they stole stuff from the family. So they were in the dungeon. And then I realized that this person was in my life. So another facet of that soul was in my life here. And they were mad at me for no reason. And I was like, what is going on? So then I saw that lifetime and I said, oh, well, they stole from me, but I'm going to release them. So I released them from the dungeon in that lifetime, let them go into the forest. And I remember this moment from the lifetime. And then the lifetime dissolved. So the lesson was learned and it just dissolved. So if we remember that our bodies are made of light, The whole matrix is made of light, and that the consciousness never ends, that you can still see them, if they decide not to go in their body, then it's actually not such a scary thing.
Like
Yeah.
that. So I have a question about time.
Okay.
Because lately, I'm feeling it, and a lot of people around me, not even from the community, I'm always getting those remarks of how things are moving so fast all of a sudden. Like my weekends, my month ends, it's like everything is happening so fast. And so I realized it's not only that I feel it, it's just a collective kind of feeling that time has already shifted to move in a different pace. Is it something that we can stop? Is it part of what we need to go through? Is it part of what's happening globally with the world events that we perceive to lose time, and that time moves that fast because we feel that there's so much happening? Or should we try to slow it down? Can we slow it down? I have so many questions.
Okay.
All in one.
So think about yourself as the ceiling fan. So you're vibrating faster and faster as you go through the ascension process, and time is moving faster and faster because you are actually moving faster. So in the old days with time, we were constantly jumping into new parallels in order to think that we were in a linear timeline. So think of it as like one of those tubes of cloth that you expand for kids to run in through. They're like, it's like a caterpillar, and the dogs and the kids and stuff are playing in these cloth caterpillar things. So every single ring would be a new timeline or a new portal that you would have to go through to think that you were still on linear time. And we got really used to that. And everything seemed to be like, oh, it's been half an hour, and you knew what time it was at all times because you were used to that rhythm. And now the rhythm is changing and moving faster, which is why we're seeing ETs now, because they move faster. So if you think about them as a vibrating being, we're starting to vibrate faster. So that's why time is going faster.
So at least now we're vibrating closer to their vibrations, so we are able to see them.
Yep.
I like that explanation. I like that. That explains a lot. But our body or our mind is trained to think that we have certain amount of years. As time moves faster, will we be able to stretch our lives as well?
Oh yeah.
Because I'm definitely planning to be 150, 200.
Man.
Is that part of what's going to happen?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So in the past, and this is when I used to like watch the Health Channel years ago. So in the past, every single cell in your body was renewed after 7 years.
Right.
Okay. Now it's 9 months.
What?
So that's the new study that came out. Every 9 months, all the cells in your body are renewed. So we're going to be able to live a very, very long time, because also we're going to understand that our bodies are made of light and that we can heal them with frequency, which is basically like the clothing too. Like the clothing is not hindering the human body, so you're able to stay healthier. So it's almost like health maintenance to be wearing organic cotton or linen or wool. Whereas in the past, like if you're a yoga person, and I mean, I love yoga pants, but I do my best not to wear them anymore because they're plastic.
Literally
Right.
Yeah. And
it's sad because on so many levels, it's kind of comfy and we're used to that. But
yeah,
and it's
great for
marketed
us.
it's marketed as like a healthy lifestyle choice of like, oh, you work out, like you should wear this, like, so it's sad. It's sad.
yeah, it is. But I don't think that we will have plastic clothes very long. People are going to become wise to that. And that'll probably be part of the new health regimen that comes out. Eventually, it's going to spill into clothing as well.
Amazing. And how do you, sorry, go on, Eva.
You go, Stephanie.
I was just gonna ask, how do you think the GFL views humanity's current state and progress?
They are so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing you got to remember is like, so different soul groups have different aspects. And the human soul group was the most emotional and also the most innocent soul group. So when the ETs looked at us, they were like, wow, I can't believe they're surviving in that muck and yucky, density, especially when you think about the fifth density ETs. So we're closer and closer to them every day. And we could be standing right next to one at this point. So it's, do we see them or not? Because the mind is where the hard drive lives, that organic hard drive. And letting go of things that we thought were true is going to allow us to see more of what's next to us with our real eyes.
That's so cool that you said that, because it just brought back like the human vision can only see a spectrum of colors, and there's so many things that we can't even see colors, we can't even fathom, and objects and particles, things that are happening all around us that our eyes can't see. And like, imagine the world around us if we were able to perceive that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, and you were talking about ETs that are here on Earth. Now, a lot of conspiracy pages and, other influencers talk about reptilians and clones and people that are hold higher up positions of power that are actually ETs with sort of nefarious intentions for humanity. Is there any update on that? Is there anything that like you would like to comment on that situation? Or
Yeah, so we've been very sandwiched with all of the different frequencies and timelines. So there are some that are still experiencing what they think is that. It's usually their shadow that's showing up to pester them, and pretend to be one of those ETs, because they're really pretty much gone at this point. And it's the mind letting go and our attention letting go of them. But we can bring things into our reality because we're that powerful. So if you're really like digging into the deep, icky layers, you're going to have icky experiences. And I think that's important. Like, we're at a decision point where we're deciding what we want our ascension experience to be like. So if you're saying, listen, if that's a shadow, I'm going to send it away. I'm going to call my angels in and I'm going to send that ET away, or an ET looking thing away. And I'm going to be happy. You can just expand the light out of your body and it will, like, they'll run away from you. So we have so much more power than we ever thought. And that's why we've been in the situation that we've been in. The brainwashing was so that we would create something that was bad for us and stay in a bad situation. So this whole process of bringing us up and up and up out of this lower density has been a massive process. And so many souls have had to come down to earth to get into the human body to help that human consciousness that lives here to keep growing and seeing more. That's why this awakening is so big, because so many came. We're like, we're going to get it done. The universe needs to ascend. So we need to ascend humanity.
So that's amazing, because we're talking about ascension and vibration of mankind and talking about raising our frequency. And what's happening on a physical level is that actually the charts of Schumann resonance are going like, crazy.
Yeah.
So on a physical level, there's actually things are moving on this planet. What's happening for the animals? Are they feeling it? Are they part of that movement? Are they part of that changing of almost reality?
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting bigger souls too now. So we had a cat that has decided not to be here anymore. Like, he ran off one night, but they're getting bigger and bigger souls. So basically they are evolving as well. So a lot of animals don't act the same as maybe they did a year ago, because they're in the ascension process just like we are.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So either their soul is getting more into the body, or they've had a walk in and they got a bigger soul that's helping that little cat consciousness expand. So it's a trip.
You spoke about angels. For you, what's the difference between higher self and angels? Does angels come from a sort of religious aspect? Is angels some sort of higher self guidance entity? Like, what does that mean for you?
Okay, so there's several soul groups and angels are one. And they were basically created as the army of the universe. So they are here to serve and protect, but a lot of them fell as well. So that's where you get the fallen angels from. So just like the polarity happens in one oversoul, it also happens, maybe they have an angel oversoul and 5 of those facets fell into trauma, or maybe almost all of the facets fell into trauma, and all of that had to be healed. So, if you think about Lucifer, right? And let's say that Lucifer was an angel, a lot of the facets fell. And not everybody is going to so in 2023, we went through a period of time where a lot of souls who did not want to heal basically went back to be with God's source. So they didn't continue as the same personality. So
2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's around the same time that we ended up. Did you guys see the Schumann resonance when it looked like tapestry of DNA strands.
Yes.
Okay, so that's when we shifted into the new universe. So we've basically been in the new universe for a while, but the human mind hasn't accepted that yet. So we're still playing out our process of ascension, but most of the other soul groups have ascended at this point, pretty much all.
Because with what's happening, we still see a lot of chaos and wars and people dying, violence. Is that part of that separation?
Yeah, that's part of the separation. That's part of fourth density. So third density is like metal, almost like it's really tense. You have to behave a certain way to get ahead in the world, you know, all that kind of stuff. And fourth density is chaos.
Hmm.
And the lower you are in that density, the more chaotic it is. And as you keep going up and up and up, then you get closer to fifth density and things kind of get calmer. So there are timelines in fourth density still. There's a lot of people that are still living the life of fourth density and chaos and stress.
Yes.
And then there are people that are at the very top of the fourth density and they've come into serenity. And there are some that are in fifth density already as well, but they don't actually know it yet, most of them. So it's all about your vibration.
And when we're in this fifth density new world, how does the 3D go with that? Is there still going to be like money and jobs and all of these like material things, or is it going to sort of move out of that capitalistic mindset and more towards like community farms and like lands and agriculture? Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we will have small business versus big business. You'll have jobs where people are actually doing projects together versus, oh, I have to go work at Walmart today. Those kind of jobs won't exist anymore after a while. And everything is a transition because if somebody's attached to that job, let's say there's 10 people that are like, oh, well, I need to go to that job still, even though maybe I have a high monthly income. So it really is up to humanity how fast they release it. But eventually the ones that will not release, they will be part of the parallels that just dissolve. And they will go ahead and ascend without their body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got some tough news for some of you.
You
It's
love that. Thank
actually
you.
like if you've ever passed away, like if you've because when I was 7, I had a near-death experience. It's the most beautiful thing.
Really?
Yeah, and it is totally being released. So these people are not going to hate it. It's going to be like the stress all of a sudden fell away.
Right.
And they may have a period of time of confusion or whatever, but that's what all the angels and your guides and everybody's there for. Most people have like hundreds or thousands of beings that are there just for them, just to help them with their process.
And for that person, let's say they've never made contact or don't know how to even take the steps to maybe like raising your vibration, but how else would somebody just every day new to the community sort of bridge that connection between the GFL and themselves, maybe opening like their channel or whatnot?
First, I would start talking to your higher self, which is your soul. So talk to your soul and then try, through your soul, make contact with others.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you just make contact willy-nilly, you don't really know who you're talking to, and you don't really want that your body to be this wide open portal either.
That's good advice, because I think you have to know what energy you're messing with to know how clear, you're giving them access to your channel, to your vessel. So that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your body is your spaceship here. So you want to honor your spaceship because it's created with your energy and the human consciousness within it. So you want to take care of it.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I always say that we are the pilots of the most amazing, spaceship thing that exists on this earth right now, and we need to really respect that thing and take care of it.
Yeah.
And everything from our food, from our thoughts, from what we give. This
Yeah.
is it's all right here. This is all us.
Mhm.
So let's
Yeah. And a lot of us are ET souls or angelic souls or, whatever. And that's who's working with your human consciousness to grow.
ET souls. So that brings me back to a little like this theory of Anunnakis, how they're playing with DNA, creating mankind as slaves. How correct or misleading that theory is?
It's pretty misleading because humanity was already created. So humanity was divinely created, and the Anunnaki were a fourth density being that interfered with humanity's creation, especially when they merged with them.
Right.
So, you know, they and Anunnaki, they are not one of the beings that made it through the ascension process.
Hmm.
So the only Anunnaki that are left are the ones that have merged with human DNA. And some of them are absolutely beautiful. And some of them weren't because they were what I call the deletes that were kind of lording over humanity. So those were those bloodlines.
So when you're talking about those bloodlines, so you're saying there are all Anunnaki descendants,
Yeah.
the rulers, the royalty bloodlines, right?
Yeah.
The 13 families, etc., etc.
Yeah. So those are Anunnaki bloodlines, but there's also all these amazing and like the RH negative people, they have
The who?
capacity, RH negative blood.
Oh, RH negative.
Yeah, they have amazing capacity to basically see further. So to have sight that a lot of people didn't have, like they have access to certain things, but that was emerging. So you have a human consciousness there that's absolutely beautiful, that's guiding that DNA. So I think, some people have really been villainized because maybe they have maybe they're RH negative blood. And I don't see there's anything wrong with that at all. It actually gives people some capacity that maybe somebody else had to work harder for, but those families, there was a lot of stress put upon the younger people in there. And I'm just going to be kind of careful about what I say, but the younger people in those families had so much stress put upon them that the human consciousness was basically like just abused. So they really had a hard time being in touch with their human side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there any other misconceptions about the GFL that people should know?
I feel like they were affected by some of the fourth density drama before 2023. So they were getting interfered with before those really big souls that had kind of created this slave system here were gone. So they've really blossomed since then because they're not being interfered with either, just like humanity is not being interfered with. And they were already at a higher vibration. So it was much easier for them just to let go of that and to see through the interference. But if you think about like the archons and the tall grays, and like some of the archons were probably one of the hardest ones, but some of those ETs were really not very nice. And they also had mind games that they could play. You know, so the Galactic Federation of Light is very on the up and up at this point. And the only time that they were not is when they were being lied to or interfered with by lower densities. Yep.
I have a complicated question.
Okay.
And I have a controversial one after.
Okay.
We've been seeing throughout the thousands of years how astrology, astral theology, kind of controlling and can tell us what's happening to us.
Mhm.
It feels like there's a huge mechanism out there that has been put, and it gives us some kind of clues
Mhm.
of what's to come, why things are happening the way they're happening, etc., etc., etc. And for thousands of years, we had astrologists, right, following the stars. And even now, I feel that I'm way more curious about it than before. So I'm wondering about this mechanism, how this mechanism was created.
Mhm.
Is all ETs subjected to this mechanism, or that mechanism is solely to what's happening here on Earth? Do they have different mechanisms for them? And who's behind that mechanism?
Okay. So that is kind of complicated, but so the architect souls came first from God source. So you have this beautiful consciousness that wants to experience new things. So it creates beings, and these are conscious beings. And the first group was called the architect group. So they created.
Are we going? It's almost like the Matrix, the architect.
Yeah. So they created that system. But the amazing thing is, so this is going to be mind blowing. The amazing thing is that all of those stars, all of those planets are conscious beings. So Earth is a being and has a soul. And so is Venus, and so is, the Pleiades have beings that are the planets. And if we remember that it's a matrix, the architect souls have a lot to do with creating the original matrix. So the divine mathematics, the flower of life, all of that stuff comes from that.
Geometry, yes.
Yeah, all the geometry. But the whole reason to create that is for learning. And it was basically, there was one of them that created astrology. Yeah. And the astrology that we saw in the past was more of a projection of the actual astrology that was going on. So just like the Truman Show, you know, we were seeing a projection of what was going on beyond. But Earth is a being, that's why we love her. And so are all the other ones. They have their own personality, which is why the astrologers say, well, if Pluto comes in, then this is going to happen.
Right.
You know, and it's because it's a being and that's their resonance. That's their personality.
Got it. So it's like energy that entering another energy and creating a certain kind of an effect.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like we're in these extremely advanced video games, basically. Extremely advanced learning game made of light. And because of the human body, you can't see past, you know, you're just seeing it as a physical thing. You're not seeing it as, oh, the mountain over there is made of light. You're not seeing that. You're seeing that it looks solid. So most beings don't. So once we're in the fifth density, we're going to see it almost like somebody who's on a mushroom trip. Okay, so you're going to see it with the light that's behind the construct of it. And that's how ETs see it. They can see the frequencies. They can see that, okay, there's a mountain construct over there. Here's the city. Here's, you know, they can see all of that.
That's mind-blowing.
I know.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a great question, though. It's a great
Um,
question. Yeah.
it's puzzling. So are the stars or the energy that are controlling kind of like our reality, is that influencing ET's reality as well?
A little bit, yeah. Because they know that there's a soul there and they know what the personality of the soul is and they know how big. So, like, if you were to pop out of your body and go into the astral plane and look at the earth, it would be smaller than you are. So the player is actually bigger than the game itself.
Whoa.
So Earth is like, you know, she's playing a role for us. And we're squished into these little bodies because we're playing a role. And we're all doing it for humanity to become more and more ascended. So for the human vibration to realize how special they are and to keep ascending up and up and up. Yeah. So the Galactic Federation, what they're mostly doing is holding higher frequencies for us.
Okay.
So they're helping all those solar, which come from the souls. So there's not a whole lot of people incarnated here. And there's a lot of souls that are not on Earth right now. So they're watching all of this go on. And they're creating that energy to say, okay, well, what do we want to do next? Let's see if we can send some energy to clean up the pineal gland, which is something that just happened. So they're doing that, and it looks like solar activity to us. But what it really is energy from the souls. And the galactics are magnifying it. So they're holding the frequency, just like you would hold space for somebody that you love that is kind of going through something hard. Yeah.
Right. So they're just supporting us from far and holding space. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like
It's like, you know, respecting our own journey, however long it takes. With, you know, we have to experience it, we have to do it on our own. So I think that that's really beautiful.
wow. No, that was a lot to grasp. Now the last one was like, wait a second. Wow.
It is a lot. And it's like amazing as things come through, and it takes, we're all evolving. Like, I understand this stuff more and more as I go. But 2 years ago, I wouldn't have understood what I just said. You know, so we just continue to elevate.
2 years ago, I wouldn't ask you this question.
Right?
Right? I'd be like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I have a controversial one. Sorry, Ava, did you want to
Okay.
finish?
No, I'm full. 1 second.
I was just wondering what role you think religion will play into Ascension. Is it going to be abandoned? Is it something that we take with us? Because if you think about it, you know, the concept of God is like a man who sits in the sky, someone with powers that, you know, are a mystery to us, somebody who knows what we're going through. And there are some parallels between God and like the ETs supporting us, like angels, like higher self. So I'm wondering, how can both coexist at the same time, or can they, or will they not? Just yeah.
Good
So
That's too personal.
it's a great question, because it's going to be one of the last systems to kind of be dismantled in a way. So the biggest part of religion that is not helping humanity is teaching people that God is outside of themselves. So you have a God spark within you. You are God experiencing itself. And you have chosen to have this experience. And that's all written, you know, written with light in the astral plane, you know, up in the great library where everything gets recorded. So just like the NSA, we have a great library. Yeah, and that's, you know, the Akashic records. So that's up there. But really, we're floating around in the same soup as all of those beings, and we are a part of God just like they are a part of God. But if you can think about them as different aspects or archetypes. So an ET archetype would be, I don't know, like the Queen of Cups or something. If you were looking at the tarot card, and the human being would be like the star. You know, the innocent, unaware, I'm just going to go for it being, because basically we've been kind of similar to Helen Keller. We haven't been able to really see what's going on or hear what's going on or know what's going on all around us. So that's what's changing. We're evolving. We're becoming more aware.
I just did not expect you.
You're funny, Tova.
You're like, Helen Keller, oh my God. Yeah. So it's a lot, we're coming through a lot of change, and that's why our bodies are going through so much change too.
That's that's interesting though. I think you said it's going to be the last system to collapse, and I think it is a system, but it's interesting to like conceptualize. And if God isn't part of us, then God would be in ETs as well, anything
Mhm.
conscious. And is it the same God? Like there's so many like rabbit holes that you can go down. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll take time. Some people it will take longer, but eventually people will gather together and they'll say, "What did you learn from yourself today
Mm.
as you tuned in?" You know, and not, "I'm going to tell you how it is." I mean, that's hierarchy. Hierarchy is going to go away.
Right.
So it's going to be, what did you learn about who you are today?
If someone asked me that as a child, like in kindergarten going up, that would have been such a great question to like check
Yes.
in, wow. Because you're so often focused on the out. What did you learn in school today? What did you
Yeah.
friends, this, that? And it's like, what did I learn about myself? So then you hit 25, 30, 35, and you're like, I don't even know who I am. But if we had that question instilled in us so young, then it would be like an evolution. Like, oh, I learned this about myself today. I learned that this triggers me. I learned that I like to stand up for people who don't have a voice. I learned this and that. So that's really cool. I like that.
Beautifully said, Tavel. You're so right.
Mhm.
And how it will help us release all of our conditionings, because it's all our conditionings in our mind. And when we start focusing here from early age, like you're saying, wow, what a difference. Sorry, Tavel, that I didn't ask you those questions when you were four.
I'm gonna implement that now. That's really, really
That's
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Wow. You just have so much knowledge. That's so
Well,
awesome.
it just comes in. So I've been doing this for about 9 years, the talking to my higher self. So, and as we're going forward, what's happening is that fractal is getting more and more embedded in the body, from the oversoul, and the oversoul is becoming the higher self. So it used to be that you were a human and you had a little bit of your soul in the body, but the rest of it was like this amazing being that saw everything. And that's where your intuition would come from. All the things that would be like guiding you would come from. And now that part of you's come into the body, and the oversoul is becoming the higher self. So think about that. Instead of one fractal, you have 100 versions of you that can help guide you.
And tapping into them when you need, like, that's
Yeah.
really it's a cool call. I have one more question.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Um, so we spoke a lot about consciousness, and as technology is progressing, a big fear of humanity is like robots and AI like gaining consciousness, um or just overtaking us as like a society. Is there any update or anything that we should know as like humanity? Are they here to help? Are they here to harm? Like, yeah, it's
Yeah. So technology is neutral. So it really depends on what we're asking from it. That's what it's going to do. So if you think about your car or your computer, you actually created it. So try and think of it that way, because everything in your reality, you made it happen. So if you buy a house, then you're buying somebody else's reality that they created. So you have to, a lot of times you remodel it and then you make it yours. But technology in general is neutral. So it will be what you want it to be. And we transfer some of our consciousness into our things. So like my car has a name, right? When I get into my car, I can feel my car, like what it's wants. Like I'm obsessed with rocks. So my car has a little like opening in the console and it is filled with rocks, right? But my car has its own personality. And it's not like some big personality or anything, but it has a name and it has a little bit of my consciousness, and that's how it runs. So if your consciousness believes that things will be good for you, all of your technology will be good for you, and you will see if it's been interfered with by something that's not good, then it will. That's how it will work. So it's really truly up to us. But the powers that have been were very into feeding us negative ideas about technology because they basically wanted it to look like that. And if you're afraid of the technology, then it's going to give you something to be afraid of.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Like you can take, for the sake of your example, your car and go help feed the homeless or give somebody a ride who doesn't have a car or transportation, or you can go run somebody over and it's not the car's fault, but it's your intentions,
Yes.
wield that power. And it is power. Yeah, that's a really interesting take on it.
But then again, looking at it as we see the big corporations, their control, you see that Google, Apple, etc. There's certain things when you ask Google, you're not going to get the answer. They're going to make sure that you see other answers.
Mhm.
Who's going to control? So who's going to create the AI and feed it with the algorithms? That's the most important thing. How
Yeah.
do we know we can trust those people?
Well, they're in the process of being reorganized. So a lot of these big corporations are either going to fall apart or they'll be part of the transition. And it's our group consciousness that drives what they will create. So if we believe that it's going to be good for us, then it will. And we need to follow our intuition in every single moment, not just, oh, it's going to be good, and then forget all about it and go with it and not tap into it again. So being in the moment and paying attention in the moment. So like, I believe that we have an Elon 2.0. So the original was maybe not so great. The second one is great, but still some of the processes that exist from his past self are maybe not something that you would want to have. So, like lithium batteries, sitting on lithium batteries might not be great for your body or for the world. But what are we going to create to come in the future? So he's also created a hydrogen car. So that's much better for the world than a battery powered car where that battery is really, really toxic. So it's really like seeing all the levels of what's going on as we go forward.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you about Elon, and I was debating, and you kind of answered it. So great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Honey, this has been great, dude. This
It was
is
fun, huh? Yeah.
one of the best conversations I had in a long time.
Oh, good. Yes, good. I'm just so excited because you guys are doing something amazing for humanity. And I think we're all doing something, you know, we're all contributing in some way. Even if you're just meditating every day and raising your own vibration, you're not like in the world creating something. It's really helping. So it's
Yes,
really exciting. Yeah.
thank you. We're living in exciting times. We are so excited to be living in those times. And yeah, thank you for hosting us, and thank you for
Thank you.
telling everybody about our brand, Galactic Federation of Light. Come
Yes.
over, support us, and be part of this movement. We are all changing the world together, right,
Yes.
hon?
We totally are. We totally are. And I'll have the link below. And we've teamed up together to talk about this beautiful stuff. So, keep that in mind. And I don't talk about things that I don't like. So I'm really happy with this. And I'm really happy as soon as I put it on, like I could feel the difference, and that's really important. And I think as we go forward, we're going to love all of our stuff. We're going to love the energy of the person that created our stuff or the family that created it, or maybe it's a hemp factory and we'll be like, oh, I'm so excited that they're doing that. But whatever we're looking at, we're going to appreciate it, and it's going to mean more than all the plastic items that we've accumulated. So we're going into a time where all of our stuff is high vibration, and we're going to let go of all the stuff that's not, because it's not going to feel good anymore. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you guys so much. This was so much fun.
This
Yeah.
was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.